There were 12 bump fire stocks identified on the firearms in the hotel room. Bump fire stocks, while simulating automatic fire, do not actually alter the firearm to fire automatically, making them legal under current federal law.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Wake Up Report. And the thing is called a bump stock. And as of right now, it is the hottest commodity in the gun world because now everybody's afraid that they're going to be banned because of the chaos in Las Vegas. So people are making a mad dash now. People who I've never heard of a bump stock. But apparently how the thing works is you attach it to a semi-automatic rifle, and it is the recoil of the rifle that bumps, I guess, hence the name. It bumps the trigger back to your finger, so it allows you to fire more rapidly. I guess your finger's not doing the work. The recoil of the gun is banging back against the trigger, and it allows you to rapid fire, mimicking the effect of a fully automatic machine gun. And Mr. Stephen Paddock, in his hotel room, armed with his weapons cache, was outfitted with a bunch of bump stocks on his semi-automatic rifles, and I guess that allowed him to rapid fire onto the crowd and kill more people than he would have killed had he been just squeezing the trigger himself. We will probably never know what drove this man to do this, because on the outside, he was a successful real estate mogul, I guess. He's a multimillionaire. He passed every background check, I guess you could imagine, so you couldn't refuse him a weapon of his choice. On paper, he was the epitome of what a responsible gun owner is supposed to be. We'll never know what drove this man to commit such a horrendous act, but his act has now affected responsible gun owners, people who have these bump stocks, who use them responsibly, and now there's a push to get rid of them. Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein has proposed a bill that would ban these bump stocks from being sold to I guess the average person, and some Republicans who don't normally participate, they kind of fight against any types of weapons restrictions. Well, they've jumped on board and said that they may in fact support this bill. So while you're at it, why don't you ban baseball bats? Because if I take a baseball bat and bash somebody over the head with it hard enough, I can kill them. Why don't you go ahead and ban ice cream too? Because if I eat too much ice cream, I will probably pork out and die from eating too much ice cream. Why don't you ban shoestrings while you're at it too? Because if I get mad enough at somebody, I can take one of the shoestrings off of my shoe and I can strangle them with a shoestring. Why don't you ban the computer that I use to do my show? Because if I get pissed off enough, I can take the computer and bludgeon somebody to death with the computer. And while we're at it, let's ban all semi-automatic rifles. Let's ban clips that hold more than 10 bullets. Let's ban all of the things that the criminals will get their hands on, and then we will have nothing to protect ourselves from the criminals. In the most predictable fashion, lawmakers are repeating the same failed attempts, the same mistakes that they constantly and consistently do when it comes to weapons and firearms and access to firearms. It is not the bump stock that is the person. It is the person who buys the bump stock and decides to mow down a bunch of people. Whatever weapon is available, all right, that weapon is not responsible. The bullets are not responsible. There were some, for most of you gun owners out there, you remember the black talons. There was a bullet called the black talon that when you fired it, the bullet actually opened up and it resembled like an eagle claw or something like that. So when it would hit the intended target, As that thing moved through the target, it would literally, those talons would dig in and just shred all the way through. Well, those things were banned because they were deemed inhumane. So when a rapist breaks into your house, you want to treat them with a little bit of dignity. When a thug attempts to rob you, you want to treat them with a little bit of respect. You don't want to rip them up with bullets. You just want to shoot them. So if you have a box of black talons, they're collector's items. Unfortunately, you cannot use them. So you will get in trouble. So even if you have a handgun in your home and somebody breaks into your house to attack you, try to kill you, you shoot them, and you have that black talon in your gun, you will go to jail for shooting someone who tried to break into your house to kill you with a bullet that was deemed inhumane. It makes absolutely no sense. Regardless of the make or the model, a bullet will kill you when it hits you. And if you don't want to get hit with a black talon, don't commit crimes. Don't be a thug. Don't be a criminal. And you won't have anything to worry about. It's like you lawmaker people don't care anything about the people who are responsible with their weapons. And even though Mr. Paddock on paper appeared to be a responsible individual, hey, he tapped out at some point. Something just pushed him over the edge, and he demonstrated that he did not need to be around or have access to the weapons that he had. And it has to be done on a case-by-case basis. You just can't dump it all in one bucket and say we're just going to throw everybody in the trash in regards to bump stocks or automatic weapons or semi-automatic weapons or fully automated weapons. That's not fair, and it is not going to solve the problem of somebody wanting to commit violence with a weapon. If they are going to commit violence with a weapon, regardless of what kind of weapon it is, they are going to do that. So you Democrats have inadvertently, beefed up the stocks for the weapons industry, because when you start all this talk, people run out and they start buying all this stuff, and the companies that make this stuff reap the rewards. The stocks go up. NRA is happy. Smith and Wesson and Glock and Beretta and everybody that makes bump stocks and whatever it is, they're all happy now because people are buying things that they would not normally have bought had you not suggested that they be banned. So instead of focusing on banning things, I think the emphasis should be on background checks, waiting periods, things like that. If you have psychological problems, if you have violent issues, that if you get a hold of a gun, you might do something with that gun because of your violent tendencies. If you are like a woman beater, if you're an abuser of animals, if you just anything that would suggest that this person should not be sold a handgun in particular. It's a constitutional right to have a shotgun, but that shotgun should not leave your house. So I think that's the way to go about this, not banning anything, because all you're going to do is ban the person who's responsible from getting it. But the criminals will always figure out how to get their guns. And as I've said before, it really ain't the gun that's the issue. How are they getting the bullets? Okay, when you go to the gun shop to get, but you have to show your identification. You have to do all that stuff so they can track where those bullets are going, where those bullets came from. So criminals never have a problem getting access to the stuff that they want until you can fix that problem. Don't even think about telling the law-abiding, responsible gun owner that they should not have access to a bump stock or to a fully automated automatic weapon if they want one. Now, there is a quote floating around the internet now that was credited to Gloria Steinem, but she's since said that she didn't make it up. But the quote is in regards to guns and abortion, and this is what it says: "I want any young men who buy a gun to be treated like young women who seek an abortion. Think about it. A mandatory 48 hours waiting period, written permission from a parent or a judge, a note from a doctor providing that he understands what he is about to do. time spent watching a video on individual and mass murders, traveling hundreds of miles at his own expense to the nearest gun shop, and walking through protesters, holding photos of loved ones killed by guns, protesters who call him a murderer. After all, it makes more sense to do this for young men seeking guns than for young women seeking an abortion. No young woman needing reproductive freedom has ever murdered a room full of strangers. And that makes absolute sense. If we would put a woman who is considering an abortion through all of that, why don't we do the same thing for somebody who is considering buying a handgun or a rifle, a shotgun, a semi-automatic gun, a gun with a bump stock on it, anything like that. Easy access to weapons by people who are mentally unstable, who don't need access to weapons. That's the problem, not the weapon itself. This moron, not one day after the shooting in Vegas, was speeding down a highway, and when the troopers pulled him over, they found all of that in his trunk. The weapons ain't the problem. Idiots like this are the problem, and we'd be better off if we aborted them and kept the guns. This is KTM and the Wake Up Report saying think a little bit. It will do wonders for you.